Welcome to the deep dive tutorial video on global weapon parsing and community average roles, one of the big new features of Light.gg patch 2.0. I'm afpac, creator of Light.gg, here to walk you through some of the finer points of how this feature works, what the intention is, and hopefully answer some of your questions. If you don't have time for a deep dive, check out the patch 2.0 rundown, which sums up everything that's changed in about 3 minutes. So, what is the community average role? Essentially, with patch 2.0, we are using the Bungie API to look at all of the weapons in the Destiny 2 global population. Using that data, we can build statistics for different weapons, perks, weapon types, and so on. One of the first ways this manifests is in the community average role. Let's take a look at the current most popular weapon in the game, Gnawing Hunger, as an example. This new section on item detail pages essentially shows you what the most frequently used perks are for that weapon across the entire Destiny 2 population. So, in this example, you can see that Corkscrew Rifling, Accurized Rounds, Zen Moment, and Rampage are the most popular perks on Gnawing Hunger on average. Underneath each of those perks, you can see all possible perks in that column with a gradient bar showing how popular that perk is relative to the most popular perk in the column. So in the case of Rampage, roughly 30% of all Gnawing Hungers use that perk. Comparatively, Swashbuckler down here is only present on 14.8%. So its gradient bar is a little bit less than half full, as it's about half as popular. So with this data, we can now come up with an idea of what the community thinks is the best combination of perks for any given randomly rolled weapon. Using that quote-unquote best roll, we can look at your individual rolls and come up with a grade that helps you compare your roll to the best possible roll according to the community. Grades go all the way from F- to S+, depending on how popular your selection of perks is relative to the most popular. Let's jump over to Duke Mark 44 for a different example. So this is one of my Dukes, right? So here you can see that based on my current perk selections, this Duke gets an A-. However, at the bottom of the roll, you can see that there's a little warning that tells me that the perks that I'm using might not be optimal. If I want to see what that warning is talking about, I can click the Inspect button to bring up the roll appraiser for this weapon. From here, I can click Select Most Popular Perks and see that the community tends to prefer a different scope than the one that I'm using, and swapping to it would bring the weapon's grade up. If you're curious about all the things that the Roll Appraiser can do, check out the description box below for a link to the deep dive tutorial on it. So now let's talk about the gotchas. So the biggest issue is that by default, the Bungie API will only allow API creators such as Light.gg, Dim, etc. to view a player's equipped weapons. So that's essentially what this empty checkbox is saying, is that if somebody asks, if a random API app tries to pull up your information, it's only going to show them the stuff that you have equipped unless you come in to your Bungie.net settings and check this box, right? So while this does keep us from hitting literally every copy of every weapon in existence across the entire population, we're still able to generate a reasonably large sample size for most popular weapons. For example, when we were just looking at Gnawing Hunger, we've seen over 1 million different Gnawing Hungers already. Still, you can argue that not seeing 100% of the weapons will skew the stats, which to some degree I agree with. However, just because of the nature of Destiny, people are sharding the weapons that they think are crap anyway. Any weapon we can see, whether it's equipped or otherwise, ought to indicate that the person that has it thinks it's worth keeping around for some reason. Not being able to see full vaults for everyone might actually inadvertently filter out some of the white noise of junk that we all keep in our vaults just in case. So at least for a start, I believe that we're able to harvest enough data to make reasonable assumptions based on what we can see. My hope is that over time, more people will allow their full inventory to be visible in the Bungie API privacy settings, which will then allow us to truly parse the full inventory of the population. That's more or less it. The community average roll on item detail pages is really the most straightforward example of how the global weapon parsing we're doing as part of patch 2.0 can be used to come up with interesting and hopefully useful new data for the Destiny 2 community. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to us on Discord, Twitter, or leave them in the comments below. Thanks as always for supporting the site, and be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of the newest Light.gg features.